Frank Corr from Corrs Corner on Hospitality E-News. You're very welcome. Today I am with the distinguished hotelier, tourism guru and currently chairman of Failte Ireland, Paul Carty. You're very welcome.
Thank you very much, Frank. Great to be here.
Paul, a son of Dunboyne in the Royal County of Meath, and was there a tradition or a sense of continuity about the hospitality industry in your family?
No, there wasn't at all. My father was a very small farmer in County Meath, and I was, just before my leaving cert and all, I was working in bars, mainly around Maynooth, which wasn't far from Dunboyne, and working in restaurants. And I just got a feel for it, for the industry at that time. And it was like as if I had a moment of revelation where I decided I really liked this industry, and I decided there and then I was going to do hotel management because I figured that was the right thing to do.
Not too many parents today, I suppose, or even then, would be encouraging their children primarily to, choose the hospitality industry as a career. But your family obviously supported the idea.
They did, Frank, yeah, very, very supportive of it. But funny, I was thinking about that we didn't have the choice that the young people have today. Young people have a huge range of choices. And unfortunately, I think you're right. Nowadays, I don't think mom and dad at the kitchen table when they're filling out the CAO, I don't think they're encouraging them to go into tourism, which is a shame because it's a wonderful industry and it's got so much to offer and it's got great variety. I just heard a statistic very recently that in 2021, 85,000 people applied on the CAO for third level, and out of that 44,000 were successful at level 8 type courses, and out of that 44,000 only 1% chose hospitality and tourism, which is quite sad, really.
It is, given
and
the
concerning.
Size of the industry.
Correct.
But you went an interesting path because Rockwell College was there at that time. It was a bespoke facility for training young people, young men specifically, for the hospitality industry. And, there has often been discussion around that maybe the industry still needs a bespoke training facility that would specifically recruit and train, waiters and chefs and many other skills within the hospitality industry.
Yeah.
Because we don't have it at the moment.
Yeah, well, you're absolutely, I was very fortunate at Rockwell. I went through CERT there. I did my 706 1 and 2 City and Guilds training to be a chef. But I never wanted to be a chef. I wanted to learn about cooking. I wanted to learn the basics. But I always wanted to go to Shannon College of Hotel Management. And Rockwell was a great, great asset going into Shannon. It gave me a great head start of being able to cook and all of that. GMIT do great work also at the moment, and Carl Brewer Street in those, and Tralee do excellent work as well in all of that. But
they're part of institutions that are focused on higher education.
Yes.
Rather than a bespoke training facility.
Yeah, at craft level. There is a need for somebody or some institution to do more on the craft level, on being a waiter, being a chef, a housekeeper, all of that. Yeah, that is a missing.
You would have continued some of that craft training when you went to Shannon, because that was also similar in that the students at Rockwell provided a catering facility for the college, but in Shannon the students also worked in the local hotel.
Yeah, that's very true. And one of the great things I liked about Shannon, Frank, was that it was 2 years practical and it was 2 years academic. So the 2 years practical was working in the kitchens, in the bars, in the restaurant and all of that. We were sent to Switzerland as part of that training. So yes, that's a key part of it. And I think that's an important part of hotel management, is learning the basics, knowing the right things to do, the basics like serving to the left, clearing to the right, beverages served to the right, all of those basics. There was a saying in Rockwell as well, it was a very simple notice up: never leave the dining room empty-handed. And it stuck with me all my life. If you're in a restaurant working, don't leave the dining room empty-handed. There's always something to bring back in or bring out or whatever.
Hotel general managers often still do that. When they're walking around, if they spot a coffee cup or something,
Yes.
It almost automatically pick it up and take it away. But one of the great advantages of Shannon, of course, was that the students got experience in Switzerland.
Yes.
Which has the reputation, if you like, I suppose, of being the classic area for getting. What was the Swiss experience like for you?
Oh, I loved it, Frank. I thought it was just, first of all, it was great at that age, you know, at 20, to be able to go to Switzerland and to leave Ireland and work. And Mövenpick, who we worked with, provided all the accommodation, our meals, they gave us a salary. And it was just the best year of my life. I loved it and I thrived on it. And in fact, I met my wife, who I'm now married to for over 44 years. I met her in Geneva, in Switzerland. She was over there also training. So I have great memories of Switzerland. It was a very happy time, but I worked hard. I worked really hard in Mövenpick. And it wasn't easy from that point of view. You know, they worked you very hard, but they looked after you and you rewarded you. But it was great. And the Swiss people are lovely people to serve as customers. They're very polite. And I loved it. I loved my time.
Did they have a unique system of management? You know, we think of Swiss as being very accurate and very precise. And so was there a lot of that in the experience?
A huge amount, and we learnt a lot from that. The company Mövenpick had, for example, back that time, when I think back at it now, that was 1977, they had centralised kitchens in Zurich that then fed all the different parts of their businesses throughout Switzerland, and everything was weighed and measured, and there was recipes, and even in the kitchen, you know, you'd see a finished picture of the dish that you had to produce, and it was item by item and line by line how you were to get it exactly like that. And that was way ahead of its time back in 1970s, you know. So they were very regimental and very good, and that was a positive thing.
It also provided you with an entree into hotel management, because after your experience there, you began to take up management positions.
That's right.
In hotels. Quite a number of them were airport hotels.
Yeah, they were. Interesting observation. Yeah, in my last year at Shannon, we were sent to Trust House Failte in the UK, which were an amazing company, also a very organised company. And at one time, they were one of the largest hotel groups in the world, and today they don't exist. They were, you know, broken up, hostile takeover. But yes, I ended up in my fourth year at Shannon working at Heathrow Airport, working in the Post House Hotel at Heathrow. It was a 600-bedroom hotel. Loved that. I liked the buzz at airports. And I went on then, you're right, I managed another 500-bedroom hotel at Gatwick Airport. I managed another hotel at Changi Airport in Singapore. I liked airport. I like the fact that they're unpredictable, and at the last minute anything can happen. I remember once working at Heathrow, and there was an Air India delayed flight, and it was 500 people, and they needed something like 300 rooms. And I was duty manager that night, and I had to make a very quick decision when we got the call, and we only had 200 rooms, and they wanted more than that. And I declined the business. So I met with the general manager, an Italian general manager, the next day, and he said, Paul, one thing you got to learn is you say yes to the business, then you figure out how you're going to get the people in. And actually it stood with me, and it's that sort of unpredictability that I loved about airport hotels, that, you know, it can all be very immediate, it can be very short term, and it's a wonderful experience, great place to work.
And in managing a hotel like that, as distinct from, say, an Irish hotel that might be multifaceted with restaurants and gyms and maybe a nightclub and that, is it very much an exercise in room sales and getting the occupancy as high as you can and getting the yield per room as high as you can?
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of the airport hotels I had multi-restaurants. They had lots of restaurants, they had room service, a lot of them were very complex, they had leisure centres, they had banqueting, and of course I managed the airport hotel here at Dublin. That was my first time back in Ireland, and the only time I managed a hotel in Ireland was at the airport hotel in Dublin.
Sam Stevenson designed hotel.
Correct.
And very interesting in that it had a sunken foyer.
Foyer, that's right.
Which was very much based on kind of Japanese style.
Yeah, it was lovely. I liked that
Lovely,
sunken area.
Yeah.
And actually, the gentleman who sent me back was Peter Stevenson. He was my area manager with Trust House Failte at the time, who was related to Sam Stevenson. There was a connection there.
Yeah.
But that was a lovely experience, being back running that hotel in 1989 to 1992. I really enjoyed that. And at that time was the height of Jack Charlton and the team staying there and all that Italia 90 and all that. It was it was a great time to be back.
There still is today, I think, a buzz in that hotel.
There is.
Every time you go out there.
There is. It's still a lovely hotel.
You know, something happening. And it has stood the test of time.
It has.
Hasn't it?
It has, yeah. Yeah, but the one I managed in Bahrain wasn't an airport hotel. That was a city centre commercial, the Diplomat Hotel in Bahrain. And that was a nice variety. The only hotel I haven't managed is a resort type of property.
These are all branded hotels that you work on. We've seen a big growth in the number of branded hotels in Ireland and groups and that sort of thing. Somewhat maybe to the detriment of the Irish family-owned hotel, which to some extent we based our image of hospitality on that type. Is it a worrying trend, do you think?
No, I don't think so, Frank. I think there are quite a lot of brands, but there's some very good brands. Here we are in one here today in the Intercontinental, fantastic brand. No, I think there's a right balance. There's still a lot of individually, privately owned, family-run hotels in Ireland. I think the mix is very good. I think it's good to have a certain amount of brands where the consumer, the guest can recognise brands and know exactly what they're getting and all of that. Particularly Americans, they can feel very comfortable with certain brands. But I think in Ireland the mix is good. We still have a lot of individual and privately run hotels. And I think that's perfect the way it is.
Yeah. Almost all those hotels, whether they're family-owned or branded, seem to be struggling with finding enough staff of the right calibre on a continuous basis. And this seems to be an ongoing issue within the hotel sector. You know, we spoke briefly about recruitment. The industry isn't the first choice for many people, and there's a big emphasis on technology and that sort of careers now. And secondly, it might be seen as an industry where there aren't clear career paths to sort of high levels, coupled, of course, with the fact that there's a lot of relatively low-paid jobs in the industry as well. And I'm just wondering, what are your thoughts about how this dilemma of recruiting staff can be resolved?
It is a serious issue, and it's something that there's no doubt about it. COVID did a lot of damage in this area. A lot of people left the industry, Frank, in during the COVID years, and they haven't come back. And a lot of them have decided to move on and go elsewhere and that type of thing. I think Failte Ireland are doing really good work in this space at the moment. They have launched their Employer Excellence Programme.
Yeah,
where you get
the results last week.
Yeah, exactly. The inaugural event was last week, and there were some great winners. So I think there's a lot of good work going on in the background with this. I think the IHI are doing great work also in terms of, you know, going out and visiting the secondary schools and getting to see the diversity of this industry. The crazy thing is, that this industry offers huge amount of opportunities within tourism and hospitality and hotels and restaurants and all of that. There is a massive amount of career opportunities, but we need to get that across to the young people. The pipeline needs to be stronger than it is, and getting people in. I think Failte Ireland's work that they've started is just the start of it. We also need the industry to step up as well, and to make sure they do simple things like do proper inductions. When staff start at work, make sure they're met and greet properly, treated with dignity and respect, to put on a very good induction before they hit the floor so they know what they're doing, and that they're paid a decent wage, and there's very good staff canteen or staff meals, and a uniform is provided. And just also, you know, talk to them, engage with these young people and talk to them about the opportunities and how they can progress and how they can get promotion, and open up their eyes to the vast opportunities that are out there for them, rather than just leaving them and not engaging with them. It doesn't really help the industry. So I think the industry itself, like we had that event last week that we launched the Excellent Employers Programme, and everybody in that room were doing all the right things. That's why they were there. But unfortunately, there are some employers within tourism that still need to step up a little bit more and make it a good career, make it good opportunities. And I also think that, the pensions need to be provided for, in some form. People will not be able to live on the old age pension in 20, 30, 40 years.
And also,
whatever.
if you want to guarantee retention,
and if you want to guarantee,
you need security for when you might retire.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think I know Leo Varadkar talked about it there quite some time ago, about auto-enrollment pensions for everybody out in the workplace. And that is the way to go. I think that's really important. And then it makes it a proper career for people, that they're looked after once they join up. So, yes, a lot of work done, but I'm very hopeful that together with, Failte Ireland, the IHF, the IHI, working with ITIC, all these organisations, that we realise that we do need to step up. There is an issue with recruiting, providing a pipeline of talent for the future, and retaining people, getting people to stay in the industry and understand that they can have a career progression.
Yeah. Well, you progressed, if you like, to some extent from hotels yourself, because
yes.
In 1999 you became the CEO of the Guinness Storehouse, which I think you described as a 5-star hotel without rooms.
That's
it
right.
had a lot of the same sort of challenges as a hotel would have.
Yeah, I remember, Frank, being offered that role back in 1999, and it was a huge decision for me to give up hotel management, which is all I knew at that stage, and I'd been in hotel management for 25 years prior to that. So I took a huge gamble coming back I was in Saudi Arabia at the time, so I took a huge gamble coming back to Ireland to set up the Guinness Storehouse. But it was the best thing that I ever did. It was the best career move.
It's an amazing success.
Amazing success, and an amazing company. Guinness are just a wonderful organisation, and Diageo were very good, and there was a great ambition to make this really a world-class visitor attraction. And you're 100% correct. I remember at the time thinking, working with the architects, how do we make this into a world-class visitor experience? What do we do? And I just drew upon my experience about, I'm going to run this like a 5-star hotel. So you have all of the attributes of that: great service, great staff, food and beverage, banqueting, ticketing, front of house, back of house, all of those areas, and that actually served me in very, very good stead to run it with that in mind, how we were running it, and introducing real hospitality into the business. Now, Guinness, in fairness to them, and Diageo, they were in the premium drinks business, and they weren't per se in the tourism business. So it took me a while to get that across. They wanted a brand experience that was world class, and mainly just speaking about the brand. And in my head, the Guinness Storehouse was going to be an entertainment centre as well as a brand experience. People are going to be paying money to come in the front door. So the one thing we want to do is make sure they have a good time, that they receive great welcome, great hospitality, and that they leave telling people how wonderful it is.
What do they say about it? I presume you would have done research. What do people say about their experience in the storehouse?
Initially, when we first opened, they would have said things like, "Oh, I thought I was going to see real beer being made." So that was something we had to overcome. So we had to put in a kind of like a brewing experience and fix that. But afterwards, when we put in great we put in great experiences and great zones within it. We put in excellent food and beverage, superb bars, great staff. People were leaving saying, "Wow, that was just amazing. I loved it." Yeah, they loved it, Frank. They loved the whole experience. And they were just telling their friends that when they come to Dublin or come to Ireland, you have got to experience this. It's just wonderful.
Isn't there an amazing affinity between Guinness and its customers? I mean, in Ireland, Guinness and Ireland are almost synonymous, but most of the visitors to the storehouse come from all over the world. and they gravitated, you'll excuse the pun, you know, towards the Guinness attraction.
It's an amazing brand when you think about it. It's a very powerful brand, and people associate Guinness as Ireland, as Dublin, the harp symbol and all of that be associated with Ireland. It has an incredible pulling power, and it's also a brand that's it's admired and loved. You know, I don't know any other brand that has as much love as Guinness out there. People just think it's associated with everything that's best about Ireland, and it's nothing to do with alcohol or things like that. It's about us as Irish people, the way we engage, the way we welcome people, the way we have conversations and all of that. They associate everything about Guinness as that. And Guinness, you're quite right. When I was running the Guinness stores, 93% of the visitors were international, global visitors, but they beat a track from the centre of Dublin. They used to walk 20 minutes from Trinity all the way up and all the way back down to go there. It was almost like a pilgrimage. They had to go and experience it. And we had 1.8 million visitors, and they kept coming back. You know, it wasn't that people said, "Oh, this isn't a great experience. I won't recommend people to come." They loved it, and they recommended their friends and family to come up and experience it.
It also probably inspired a number of other visitor attractions in Ireland that we didn't really have until we had the Guinness Storehouse. I mean, we had obviously monuments, and we had churches, and we had Neolithic sites and that sort of a thing. But the kind of created experience or attraction, Guinness set the pace with that, and I think inspired a lot of others now. You know,
I think that's
many
a very
interesting ones, including the Titanic,
including the Titanic,
wonderful place down in Avondale now.
Yes,
the tree walk and that sort of a thing. There's the new
Epic
rugby experience in Limerick. Epic, yes, that's right.
And there's many more. I think that's a really good observation you made. I think Guinness at that time, when it opened in the year 2000, and it got amazing publicity. You remember President Bill Clinton visited us, and when he came and stayed that time in Ireland. And I think the Guinness Storehouse gave people the confidence that, you know, visitor attractions can be successful, they can be commercial, they can be very well run, and it inspired people, to think differently. So now I think we have some wonderful visitor experiences around Ireland. The Cliffs of Moher is just, we have some natural ones, and we got some built ones. So we have a great blend of both.
I think we have more now that's produced the wow factor that you mentioned when people visited Guinness. They said wow. Now we're inclined to say wow in more areas around the country at more attractions.
Yeah, and one of the things that I'm really pleased about was the formation of AVIA, the Association of Visitor Experience and Attractions. I was so pleased that I was involved in setting that up, because what that's done is professionalise the sector and made the attraction sector more attractive for young people to join, and they can see there's great careers in the visitor attraction sector. And the UK was way ahead of us in this. The UK had a much more mature visitor experience sector, and we didn't have that in Ireland. You know, the Guinness Storehouse was there, Trinity was there, the Cliffs of Moher was already there, and there was quite a few like that. But since AVIA has been set up, the sector has become much more professionalised and promoting great attractions and promoting great careers within the sector. So we've come a long way. But it is there to represent the sector and to show tourism. Like Failte Ireland worked very closely with AVIA, because Failte Ireland would get a lot of benefits by being associated with AVIA, and certainly AVIA liked the association with Failte Ireland. So there is that element of working closely with government and working closely with industry to make sure that the sector is promoted correctly and that it has a voice in the sector. One of the things I noticed when I was at the Guinness Storehouse, that I found it very hard to attract people from the hotel management sector, because they just saw, well, that's an attraction sector and I'm in the hotels and I'm not going to move in. That's changed now, because I think people see that there are great career choices in the visitor experience sector as well.
And Failte Ireland has invested quite considerably in these attractions,
Yes.
with various schemes. And speaking of Failte Ireland, of course, you're chairman of the National Tourism Development Authority. I'm just thinking we're now in the post-COVID sort of era. How has tourism, the tourism product, evolved or emerged from the COVID pandemic, and where is it at now?
Oh, Frank, I think we're in a great place. I think hotels are in a good place now. Hotels are trading very well. Demand is huge for tourism. The problems we're having right now is supply. We don't have enough hotel bedrooms for the tourists coming in. We don't have enough car hire. We don't have enough golf courses, some places, for tee-off times. So the demand is there. It's the supply side we need to work on. But I think Failte Ireland have done a great job with creating the Wide Atlantic Way, all these trails, Ireland's hidden heartlands, Ireland's ancient east, and Dublin. They've done great work in those areas, and Failte Ireland do amazing work out in the regions with destination experience development plans. Sounds like a mouthful, but actually what they do is they go into the local areas and they work with them about bringing out the best in the assets and the tourist offer that they have, and work with the local communities in creating them. And that's working really well. I think also on the heritage sites, Failte have helped to bring them to life, because people want stories when they come. They want great storytellers and great guides to be able to bring all these sites to life, and all of that. And then there's the old, the culture. People want to experience what the Irish people have. So there's that living culture. They want to go to our events, to Croke Park, to St. Patrick's Day festivals, to the restaurants, to the food festivals that we have. It's that living culture that Failte Ireland have helped also to bring to life. So it's in very good shape at the moment.
You mentioned the shortage of accommodation, of hotel beds, and that's been in the news quite a lot. And of course that's pushing up rates, because demand is exceeding supply. Is this a blip? Can you see this issue being resolved?
Well, at the moment, it is an issue in the sense that the government had to react very quickly, as we know, with the war in Ukraine, and I think the Irish government have done a very good. It's commendable how quickly they have reacted, and even Joe Biden mentioned it recently. We've I don't know, the numbers are up to 70,000 Ukrainians at this stage, or could be a bit more. But the problem is there's a big focus on one type of accommodation, which is hotels. And what we need to do now, and the government realised that, is we've got to diversify and put our Ukrainians and other unfortunates who are being persecuted in their country, we got to put them into other forms of accommodation. So I understand now that 35% of occupancy out in the regions is already occupied. I mean, that's a very high percentage. 1 in 3 rooms is already gone. I think there is a big move at the moment to diversify, because the problem, Frank, is that it's not, the hotels are doing fine, obviously, because they have the revenue from that, but it's the downstream businesses that are suffering. As you know, it's the attractions, the restaurants, all of the businesses, the shops, the garages, everybody that's relying on tourism. That is the issue. And the government realised that. So we have to diversify. We have to find and build and create other accommodation. Who knows when this war is going to end? Nobody knows. But I don't think it's going to be anytime soon. I think there's a little bit more, unfortunately, for it to run a little bit more. So Failte Ireland, ITIC, and the IHF, everybody realises that it's not sustainable, because it will damage our tourism industry if it's allowed to continue, because people will go elsewhere. They'll look to go elsewhere, and because there literally won't be rooms for them to stay here.
And it's high on the agenda of the lobby groups, ITIC and that. And just on that, ITIC is the advocate, if you like, for the broader tourism industry in Ireland. But would it be fair to say that tourism is a bit down the pecking order when it comes to being, an effective lobbyist, or getting the recognition that it might deserve given its contribution to employment and to the economy, if you compare it with agriculture or industry or these sectors.
Frank, I would have agreed with you maybe about 5 years ago. I would have said yes, but I think that's changed. I really do think it's changed. I think the government now realise that tourism is our largest indigenous industry, employing over 250,000, worth 8 billion to the exchequer. And the thing about tourism is that tourism goes out into the regions. It goes to every parish in the country, whereas, the foreign direct investment will go where it wants to go and all of that. And the government realised that. We have had some great ministers for tourism in the last 5-6 years. Pascal Donoghue, Leo Varadkar, Catherine Martin. And I think they have done an awful lot to bring it into the cabinet table, into the discussion. And when we had our last recession, before COVID, it was actually the tourism industry that led the way out of the recession and brought the economy back and all of that. And the government saw that. So I would say that ITIC, at the moment, is in a very good place. I mean, we have a chief executive there, his name Onamara Walsh. He does an amazing job. He's a great communicator, and he speaks and says all the right things at the right time. And I believe now tourism, has a strong voice at the cabinet table that it didn't have maybe before 5 or 6 years ago, whenever it was, But I think things have changed, Frank. I think we have a powerful voice.
Should we have a dedicated minister for tourism, do you think?
I'm sure I'd love that, wouldn't I know the industry we'd all love that. That would be the ideal situation. Whether it'll happen or not, I don't know. That's above my pay scale, but that would be fantastic, and then it would show the seriousness of the industry and that.
Well,
some
Paul,
countries do have that.
Yeah, they do. Paul, you've made a tremendous contribution to the industry in its various aspects throughout your distinguished career. And just finally, what's next?
What's next in tourism, or what be?
On your agenda.
Well, actually, Frank, I'm very happy. I'm stepping down from Failte. My time is up at the end of May, early June, so I'm stepping down from that. I've absolutely loved it. I've really enjoyed my time at Failte, and I've learned so much. I've loved being chairman of ITIC when I did that as well. I love learning about the industry and all of that. I'm very happy now at this stage to play golf 3 times a week. I'd love to get my handicap down. I love living in Kinsale, so I am not going to do anything. I'm going to step back. I was involved in a few things when I retired from Diageo. Not just Failte Ireland. I was involved also with a few other companies. But right now, that's all going to come to an end this summer. I'm going to take time out. I'm going to play a lot more golf and hopefully do a bit more travel. And I don't intend to do anything else. However, if something came along that I thought, I'd be interested in that, I would find that interesting. But I'm not going to go chasing or looking for something.
I have no doubt something will come along. But in the meantime, can I wish you every happiness and success in doing what you want to do. And thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.